Okay, because there are quite a few problems on the review, we are going to cover some selected problems because if you know how to do these, I'm pretty confident that you can do the other ones. You can do the other ones very easily. So let's start with question number three. Okay. Now, for question number three, what's very important that you must know how to factor. And based on the grading of the previous two quizzes, this particular kind of problem would seem to be somewhat problematic because of the factoring. Okay, so first thing is, do you acknowledge that you need to factor before you get the center of rotational symmetry? Some people would just go ahead and put down -4, -1. That would not be correct. And second, the second thing is when you factor, you have to also acknowledge that this number two, it is still happening within the cubic function, not outside of the cubic function. All right. And if you know that it's within the cubic function, then you know this two, it's a b value. Okay, so this is actually indicating that we are going to have a horizontal shrink or compression, okay, by a factor of 1/2. Okay, so now we can go ahead and get our center of rotational symmetry, which is right here. And because it is reflected, it is compressed horizontally by a factor of 1/2. So I'm expecting a graph to look something like this, and then compressed horizontally. So when I make my sketch, I would do this to indicate that it is shrinking by a factor of 1/2 horizontally. But vertically, it's the same thing. Goes up by 1 unit first, and then it goes up and down by 7 units. Okay. Now, as you can see here, we can't really tell what the y-intercept is going to be. But we do know what the x-intercept is. The x-intercept is simply -2.5, 0. Now, you could plug in numbers, put in 0 into the y, and then find out what the x value is. But since it lands pretty nicely to the x-axis, we don't really need to do that. When it's asking for domain and range, you know that it's very straightforward. There's no restriction of any kind, so it goes all the way to the left and right, up and down. Now, then, in regards to the y-intercept, it will be y-intercept would be found by putting 0 into the x. Okay. Now, some students ask that do we put in the 0 to this equation or this equation, and the answer is it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter much as long as you did it correctly. But if you think you might do something wrong, then I would suggest you to put into the original one so that you can safeguard yourself and prevent any kind of stupid mistake being having a bigger impacts than you expect. So, and then when you find your y-intercept, you should also assess the validity of it. So it sets -65. Does it make sense? I would say it makes a good amount of sense because the graph is going all the way down, so it should be something more towards negative.